Learning and development is a noisy space. There's no shortage of big claims, shiny tools, or confident answers. But if you actually do this work, you know that improving practice is usually slower, messier, and far more interesting than any headline would suggest. This is what this podcast is all about. I'm Tom McDowell, and this is the IDTX podcast. Welcome to the IDTX podcast. In this episode, I'll be chatting with Matthew Richter, the opening keynote speaker for IDTX Evidence-Informed Practice, about his upcoming session with us in May. IDTX Evidence-Informed Practice 2026 is set for the 29th of May in the heart of Birmingham. Matthew will be joining 11 other fantastic speakers across 8 live sessions. For those attending the day, you can expect an entire day designed to help you move from finding science interesting to useful. You'll have expert speakers from around the world translating research into practical application. You'll get clear, evidence-informed ways to think about performance problems across environment, culture, and capability. You'll leave with practical tools, approaches, and examples you can take back to your work and apply without needing a PhD or a personality transplant. And finally, you'll be having conversations with people who care about impact and who want to improve practice through better thinking and better evidence. If you're tired of performance conversations that start and end with "let's run some training," and you'd rather work from what we know, not what we hope, you'll feel right at home at this year's event. With all of that said, let's get into the conversation with our keynote speaker for IDTX Evidence-Informed Practice 2026, Matthew Richter. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to have a chat with us. But for those of the audience who don't already know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. The simplest thing is I'm a trainer. So I go around, I design, and I deliver programs, and typically I deliver them within the domain of learning. So we train the train. We do train the trainers. We do how to do instructional design workshops and programs. But I also have spent 30 years teaching managers how to manage more effectively and so forth. We've built and tried to do leadership development, but, if you've seen my little book on the issues with leadership development, then I'm not sure we've always been successful there. I also direct the Learning Development Accelerator, LDA, which is a professional community for learning and development practitioners globally. And I do that with Clark Quinn and lots of other projects.
Absolutely. I think the project that I'm excited about at the moment from you is the book that very much relates to what you're talking about at IDTX. So could you tell us a little bit about the book and then about your session?
Sure. So the book is called The Motivation Blueprint. It comes out beginning of May. And I'm excited about it because I started working on it 30 years ago. And we finally got it out. But it is a book that is in many ways a love letter to self-determination theory. It's the theory that says we all have 3 basic psychological needs as humans: a need to feel autonomous, a need to feel competent or effective at what we do, and a need to feel relatedness or a sense of belonging to those around us. And so the book is actually targeting managers and leaders, but we can extrapolate quite a bit of what's in the book for learning. And it goes into 3 parts. So I give an overview of what is self-determination theory and why do we care. Then the second section of the book is about the system. Right, motivation is inherently going to be affected by the systems that we're in. So, how do we, as an organization, management, leadership, affect the environment around us? Whether it's by fostering psychological safety, focusing on DEI, focusing on how we think about measurement, focusing on trust. How do we then move into the tactical components, which is the third part? So how do we set goals, deliver feedback in an informational yet not controlling way? How do we measure performance? Did I say performance appraisals? Things like that. And then there is a chapter from a management perspective on learning. And how do we foster and cater to supporting the motivation of employees who are going through learning and development initiatives? And then the last chapter, last section is all about cases. So how do we put this all into practice? What's it look like? What are some of the nuances as things kind of mesh together that could go wrong and so forth?
Brilliant. And I think one of the things that strikes me is almost the way you've written your book is kind of exactly what evidence-informed practice is all about in terms of the event. It's going from that understanding of, what is the theory, and then what does it mean to us? Why does it matter? And how do we apply it? So in your session on the day, what can people expect from that?
Well, I'm going to hand out money. So do come. I do like to hand out cash. By the way, I'm not kidding. It's not an April 2nd joke. But I do like to hand out money because we can explore then the ways in which rewards and different types of external factors can influence the motivational effect that we have on our learners. So there will be cash. The second thing people can expect is a checklist. So what do we need to put in place to foster a more motivating, more positively motivating environment? And that doesn't mean that if people are really motivated, that they learn. No, they go in parallel. Good learning design is one thing. Good motivational environments is another thing. And the two mesh together. You need them both. And we'll talk about different ways in which they affect each other. But motivation is crucial to good learning outcomes. But good motivation by itself does not yield a learning outcome. And so we can't forget that. And so how do we marry the learning science to catering to motivational needs?
Fantastic, and this is exactly why I'm really pleased to have you opening the day for us. I feel like this is a fantastic umbrella that underneath can then sit everything else we're going to explore in the day. The whole point is that we experience a lot of different ideas throughout the conference that marry together, that we can ourselves go back into work and
Yeah.
synthesize into improving how we work.
But it
Um,
doesn't happen though without some practical tools. So at a
Absolutely.
minimum, I'll give everyone a checklist. Actually, I think we decide we're going to give everyone a copy of the book. So an ebook. Um, so
Well, fantastic. There we go. That's there you go. Cash and an ebook. You couldn't
yeah, well,
really
only two
ask for
people
more.
get the cash, so it needs to
Ah,
be real. But I will do some card tricks as well. So
well,
we will do some magic. So
there we go.
you
What?
you pick the one person in the audience you want to disappear. We'll make them disappear. So
Well, that's if you're interested in being disappeared, do get in touch with the show. If you're interested in cash, don't call me. Just sit prominently and wear something brightly coloured. Maybe I don't know.
yeah. By the
Um,
way, do we have a requirement on what currency I can use? Um,
uh,
it'll be 100 of something.
wow.
So
We make no commitments about
yeah,
the currency you'll receive on the day.
right.
Phenomenal. Well, Matt, thank you so much for talking to us in advance of your session. I really appreciate it. If someone's listening to this right now and they go away thinking about or doing one thing in the next day or so, what would you like that to be?
It's never about how much someone is motivated. It's about the quality of the motivation. So, how supporting, how positive, how sustainable is that motivation for us to get off the couch and do something because it's meaningful to us, because it has purpose, it has a value to us that is internal, right? It is intrinsic. And, so the people do things for all sorts of reasons. But if we can really think about the quality of that motivation, that is going to yield better relational outcomes as we design learning.
IDTX is all about bringing together amazing practitioners from around the globe to share what they know. For the last 5 years, we've been hosting virtual conferences, and Year 6 will be amazing with 2 virtual conferences, but we are also bringing IDTX into the real world. On May 29th, we'll be hosting the Evidence-Informed Practice Conference in the heart of Birmingham. This one-day event will bring together scientists, researchers, L&D practitioners, HR professionals, and people from across the performance enablement landscape, all focused on figuring out how we can harness the scientific understanding of how people work to improve our ability to facilitate performance in the workplace. With a roster of fantastic speakers and ample opportunity to network, it's an event you do not want to miss out on. Tickets are just £100, but strictly limited to 100 attendees. Head over to idtx.co.uk today to make sure you've got your ticket. Next up, we'll hear from Kim Ellis, founder of L&D Free Spirits, one of this year's sponsors for IDTX. Our sponsors make running these events possible, and we only partner with organisations that we believe are bringing incredible value to the learning and development and HR industries. Kim has been a passionate advocate for this and other communities across the learning and development industry for well over a decade. So without further ado, let's hear from Kim.
I'm Kim Ellis, and I am first and foremost a freelancer. I've been freelancing since 2017, and I am the founder of L&D Free Spirits, which is a community for other freelancers and self-employed people who work in the people development business.
Fantastic. And I guess this community's grown over quite a few years now. So can you tell us a little bit about, what's the community about? What's it for, other than just for freelancers?
Well, when I first started freelancing, I had no idea. I posted flyers out to people and expected to hear back. I was doing marketing like it was the 80s. I had no business acumen. I had no idea how to run a business, how to set one up. I knew that I needed an accountant, and that was probably the best decision I ever made. And when I started doing work and then started getting more involved in the community, I was on the board with the Learning Network for 4 years. I was starting to feel that there's a lot of people who are in the position that I was in. And I really want to help them do the business side of things instead of, just focusing on how to be an L&D consultant. It's like, how do you actually run the business?
Really fantastic community. It runs loads of great events from webinars through to online conferences. As we're recording this, and actually there's a conference, in a couple of days' time, which is really exciting. On the note of conferences, of course, thank you for being one of our sponsors across 2026 and all 3 IDTX events. I'd love to ask, what is it about IDTX that made you want to sponsor our events this year?
I've been to IDTX sessions before, and they're always so refreshing because it's by the people who do the business. It's not some of these conferences, some of these talks that you go to, it's by people who are very much further removed from the day job of things that a lot of freelancers, and myself included, actually get involved with. So to have a conference like IDTX, it's really refreshing knowing that these are people just like me. These are my peers that I'm learning from. It made absolute sense for Free Spirits to sponsor IDTX, not just because you got 2 great online conferences, but you're running the in-person event in Birmingham as well, which is really refreshing for me, having something not in London, because as a northerner, Birmingham's really easy to get to. I'd say that making the decision to pay to sponsor an event as a business does take some consideration. So when sponsoring, we need to really consider, does it make good business sense? And that's the same when you're attending. If you're a freelancer attending one of these events, you need to be thinking, does it make good business sense? It's not just, am I getting my schmoozing shoes on? Am I going to meet some great people? It's how can you elevate your skill level so you can take that to the next client and so you can potentially earn more money as well. And the IDTX events are great for elevating your skill level.
Absolutely. And I think that's been really central to what IDTX has always been about. It's about bringing together people who, who do the work and have developed expertise through doing the work. They're not still dining out on a book they wrote 10 years ago, and are instead coming to share their kind of their hard-won expertise with all of us. It's something that I'm always pleasantly surprised at how many people put their hands up when I say, "Hey, does anyone want to come and share at an IDTX event?" We're never short of speakers, which is great. So on the note of kind of what's coming up in the future and what we're looking forward to, what is coming up in the next few months and the rest of the year at L&D Free Spirits?
Well, every week we have a webinar or a meetup session every Tuesday at 12, usually. But our big event this year is our next conference, which is the 1st of October, and that's Free Spirits Live. And that session, we're going to be really focusing on being a thought leader and leveraging speaking opportunities when you're self-employed, because a heck of a lot of business can come from having a personal brand and elevating that side of things. So that's really what we're going to be focusing on.
You can connect with and learn more about Matthew Richter, the Learning and Development Accelerator, Kim Ellis, and L&D Free Spirits in the show notes of this episode. If you haven't already booked your tickets, there are a few left for IDTX Evidence-Informed Practice 2026. Make sure you book now to avoid disappointment, and we hope to see you there on the day. IDTX Evidence-Informed Practice 2026 is sponsored by Evolve, L&D Free Spirits, iSpring Solutions, and Manageable. Thank you as well to our delivery partners, the CPD Group, the Learning Network, and Learning News. And thank you to you for listening to this episode. Please share your thoughts in the comments and leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. I look forward to seeing you at an IDTX event, and until next time, keep learning.